Okay, I think we need to talk a little bit about what's going on with the whole Aztec GEICO announcement thing, and a little bit of what happened yesterday at the CIC meeting, although that whole thing is really irrelevant for the industry. A little background, just so that you know, this isn't anything really new. When scanning got popular in 2015, and they started talking about it back then, it was NACE, how far behind we already were as an industry. All of these scan tool companies that came around made some questionable hiring decisions, and they went and got people sometimes from like MSO backgrounds that were industry, or their titles were insurance customer relations and whatever. And back then, those companies all believed that the path to financial success was through the coronation and direction of an insurance company on their product. That if you got an insurance company to mandate it or agree with it or validate it or whatever, that you'd make a ton of money. And they all went meetings with all these insurance companies, and each of them pitching why they should be the one that the insurer selects, and that kind of became a race to the bottom. That's where this 0.5, so this half an hour for scanning that you hear insurance companies say, well, that's all we pay. That's where that came from. That's not an insurance company made it up. That stuff was in those presentations. Oh, it doesn't take us any longer than half an hour to do any car. And I think they thought that while they were trying to sell the insurance companies their services, they were just in the background making notes. Really the similar same thing that happened when BMW tried to go meet with State Farm and explain their steering gear position and all of that nonsense. No insurer cares about what you want to talk about with your service. They're just figuring out ways to pay less on every claim. That's their job, is to figure out how to get by with as little amount of money as possible so that they can have more money at the end of the year and make a profit. That's what insurance is. So back then when they were pitching it, we really never had any insurer jump on it. That was 2016, 2017. They listened and made some decisions, but they never really came out and said, this product is what we want you to use. Now, keep in mind, there's a precedent for this, and why companies like Aztec believe that they don't have to care about what a shop thinks, and that's called CCC. So CCC very blatantly, very boldly in court in a deposition that you can go read the testimony, basically said, we don't care about shops. They're not our customer whatsoever. We focus on the insurers because we know that once we get an insurer to be our customer, then the shops will follow. And they've continually done that. So if you guys look at every time you have a CCC increase, it usually is always after some insurer has announced that they've selected CCC as their vendor. So you guys all got a really big price increase the last time that State Farm said that they were switching from Autotex back to CCC. So there's a precedent because shops keep buying CCC. You keep paying and subscribing for it every month, no matter what that company does to you or no matter what agreement they reach with an insurer. So if I'm Aztec, why do I care, right? I'm going to go get an agreement with an insurer, and you shops are going to keep paying that bill because GEICO makes you, or whatever. What's interesting about this agreement that I think everybody has to pay more attention to. So I've seen a lot of people online going, this doesn't matter, it doesn't apply to me, I'm going to charge what I want to charge, they don't set my rates, I do, I'm not a GEICO DRP. Yeah, all that sounds great, I get it. But here's what's changed since this last time, or maybe the 2016, 2017 rounds when we were looking at this. Two major things. One, insurance policy has changed. So there's been a rapid change of the language within a policy that really gives an insurer more leeway to limit what they pay. So in other words, instead of the market driving what is reimbursed under a policy, they're setting payment limitations and expectations. Some of those languages have now included they're only going to pay a certain percentage if you don't use a DRP program. We get to determine cost of reimbursement, not cost of repair. And that's where you see them, hey, we found a headlight 27 states over. Well, we're not saying that's the headlight you got to buy. We're just saying that's the price that we're going to pay. You as a shop get the part from wherever you want to, but we're only basing our indemnification on that price. That language is a little concerning. There's a video on our YouTube channel with attorney Erica Eversman from like 4 years ago where she's talking about the changes in these policy language and how that's going to affect reimbursement. So sure, as a shop, I can charge the customer, But the customer then has to pay that. There really will be limitations on what insurers pay. And that language is there. And that language really allows a GEICO to say, you can use whatever scan tool you want. You can in-house it, you can outsource it, you can do whatever you want to do, but we're only going to pay this $45 because we've got a standardized pricing agreement with Aztec. So once GEICO puts that standardized pricing agreement in play, they can then apply that to every shop all over the country. Doesn't matter skill level, doesn't matter the vehicle, doesn't matter what the OE says, none of that. And they're using their policy language. So I think a lot of people are overlooking just a little bit deeper than what this is. This just isn't something that they come up with for their DRP program. Secondarily, GEICO's not the only insurer that's out there doing this, nor is Aztec the only company that's out there doing this as well. I've got paint companies that are going and meeting with insurers and offering standardized pricing agreements to the insurers for how shops would be reimbursed on estimates for paint materials. So it's like everybody's really racing to try to work with these insurers. And if we don't do something about it, it gets worse, not better. I would love to charge the customer, and we do, and I would love for all of that to be easy peasy, but we all have to stay in business. And so the indemnification amount, or the amount of a check that an insurance company writes, is kind of critical to all of our bottom lines. And so that's why this is a little bit more problematic. So the only way independent collision repair shops, and even I'm going to say the DRPs, you guys got to fight back too. The only way you can somewhat right the ship is you're going to have to get rid of Aztec. Everybody, even if you like the program, even if the service has been great, even if you know somebody that works there or whatever, you probably don't know anybody that works there anymore. They laid off over half. They pretty much laid off most all of the United States staff, and those jobs have transferred to Mexico. So they're kind of screwing over American shops, but also they took away American jobs. That's really great. Love these venture capital based companies. But if they're not getting revenue, their source of revenue is from you. Just like the companies that reach agreements like CCC, their source of revenue is you. Insurance companies really don't pay for software licensing. You guys do at $900 a month per license, right? That's where their revenue comes from. If they don't have a downturn in revenue, then why wouldn't they actively pursue more agreements with other insurers? If they don't have a downturn in revenue and they're succeeding, then the other companies in the industry that didn't do this, that didn't go meet with insurers and try to get specialized rates, why would they not do it? So what prevents an AirPro or an Opus or whatever from doing it next? Because they have to. You haven't rewarded them in the marketplace with your business and punished Aztec by taking it away. So then you'll see more and more companies and more insurers, and a lot of people do this. Shops are going to have to make really hard decisions, and uncomfortable ones. When you get a workflow and process with a vendor and you've trained your team on it and all that, man, switching is such a nightmare, and a retraining, and there's mistakes and a lot of stuff that happens. But we got to fight back, so to speak. There are a lot of dollars and a lot of incentive to work against you. And we just really got to right that ship. So pay attention to this agreement, pay attention to what happens afterwards, be angry, use your dollars wisely. If you don't have to be with something, then don't be there unless that's a benefit to you as a repair shop. I hear shops all the time tell me, well, I don't like CCC and I don't like what they do and blah, blah, blah. But you know, when it comes to dealing with an insurance company, it's better to be apples to apples or whatever. And that's really kind of one of the dumbest things you can say. You're an independent business. You wrote an estimate. The title of an adjuster is called adjuster because it's their job to figure out differences, not yours. So that's why we call it adjust, right? But you've got to start making your voice be heard with your dollars. Because I mean, I'm sitting here reading this morning some of the things that were said at CIC. Plus, I was getting text messages all day yesterday, and those rooms aren't your voice. There's a lot of politics and public relations and things that are involved in what people say and do at those industry events, and they're not always speaking on the behalf of the small independent body shop across America, and it just is what it is. So you've got to speak back with your dollars. If you don't start doing that, it'll get worse before it gets better. I had somebody messaged me earlier and they were like, well, we can sue. And I'm like, okay, that's great. You're right. Yeah, I really think that this is an overstep of the antitrust. I think it's interjection into the repair process by GEICO. So I think they've crossed the line and become a repairer at this point in what they're doing, but none of that matters what I think. We'd have to go to court to do that. And court is a long process. So insurers use methods, we call it motion killing, right? Where you just file motion after motion after motion for dismissal and for other things. That process, from the time a suit is filed to you actually see a courtroom based on motions can be delayed average of 3 years. Well, how do you survive as a collision repairer for 3 years while we're waiting for this thing to litigate? And in the meantime, the insurer will not change their behavior. Avery versus State Farm should have taught everybody that, right? That the behavior of aftermarket parts didn't stop. It only proliferated. It sped up during the whole time while we were doing this 20-something years of litigation over Avery versus State Farm. But that there's a 3-year stall process, and then you have a trial, and then you have appeals, right? Maybe it ends up being another thing. The insurers have worked diligently to set this up. This isn't just something that they, Aztec came to them and offered GEICO a deal, and they went, this is great. This has been active since 2016, 2017. And then moving the cards and the blocks or the chess pieces in place with policy language that bolsters this, right? You can't RTA this away because an RTA is within 4 corners of the policy. And so if the policy says this is what indemnification is based on, that's what indemnification is based on. The only way to argue policy is not through RTA, it's through litigation. So pay attention. Discuss this, talk about it with your jobbers when they come and visit, and talk about it with your peers in the marketplace, and talk about it with your dollars, like who you cancel and who you don't, who you keep or whatever. As a result, if you cancel Aztec over the next 2 weeks, if you cancel your Aztec, if you have Aztec service and you cancel it and you make a video that posts you canceling it, or and maybe in glorious ways, like I'm not opposed to blowing up scam machines and other things, but if you cancel that service and you make a video of it, you post about it publicly why you're canceling services, you tag Aztec and do some things, I want you to send that to me, and I've got a lot of little special freebies that we're going to send you for not only replacing your scanning system, but other things that we will do to help you kind of to recover from that change. Change is the only way we make progress, but boy, change sure is painful and hard. So we would love to help you with that. If you have any more questions or you need some more information, then definitely reach out. You can email us on the website. But I desperately need you to understand that this isn't just some company announcement that only affects GEICO DRP shops. This is serious, and everybody needs to pay attention. Thanks.